Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya and welcome to another episode of TFiR Let's Talk. We are here at KubeCon in Detroit and we have with us once again Julian Fischer, CEO and founder at Anynines. Julian, it's great to see you again.
Great to be here again.
Yeah, we saw each other a few months ago at Valencia in Spain. We are here again at KubeCon. Tell us a bit about, have you seen any contrast, difference, because people are coming back to these events and also Kubernetes is maturing. Cloud Foundry communities, they're also kind of looking at paths to migrate. So talk about what did you see here at this event?
Well, what I see is that with KubeCon, the next generation application runtime for Cloud Foundry is on its way. We, I think, finally got it right in the sense that it is to a maximum degree Kubernetes native. So I believe that the next step would be to wrap it in a way that it maintains a similar operational efficiency, especially for large Cloud Foundry environments to migrate. So it would be early for them to migrate now. However, the door opens, or let's say the barrier of entry lowers for those smaller environments. So if you're looking for a way to manage applications much more efficiently than with bare Kubernetes, then KubeCon is for you.
You have delivered a couple of talks here, data on Kubernetes, recap of your Kubernetes experience. But you have also spent a lot of time in hallway tracks, talking to people, customers, partners, users. Talk a bit about what are you hearing from them in terms of where they are with their Cloud Foundry journey and how they're looking at Kubernetes.
I believe in the Kubernetes ecosystem, there's a very interesting effect. Some of the problems, they seem to be solved. There's nobody actively looking for it, although they aren't. So for example, I've been addressing with you in conversations the problems that large-scale vendors have with Kubernetes adoption. So this is basically still the case. So how do you make sense of operating a large number of Kubernetes clusters? And also, if you remember, one of the big challenges with Cloud Foundry was always, or has always evolved around how to manage data. So you got this thing that gives you the application deployment experience. You can horizontally scale everything. You have the build packs, the lifecycle, manage your applications. But how to do that with data? Now, we've invented the BOSH-based virtual machine automation, anynines data services, the package of several services that gives you a means to efficiently manage data in the way you do the Cloud Foundry runtime using BOSH. So it's one operational model across the board. Now, how does this work in Kubernetes? You could either integrate that existing virtual machine automation and tie that to all your individual Kubernetes clusters, which is the way to go if you already have a Cloud Foundry, for example, and you're extending your platform with Kubernetes. However, if you are in a micro region where you don't have that opportunity, then the question is, do you need operators and do you want to store data on Kubernetes natively? So whether it's a micro region or just your strategy to go all Kubernetes all in, that data problem is unsolved in the Kubernetes community to this day. You will find numerous open source operators that will do a fairly good job. But if you want to manage them at scale, and let's say 10 different ones, they will all be different in the way they are operated. They will all be different in the degree of maturity, and will come with different backup and restore strategies. And sometimes they even don't have it at all. So it's still the necessity to have something that covers your data, with that relational database system of your choice, the message queue, the search and analytics server, and so on, that'll provide you with the operational efficiencies to build large-scale platforms. Because the heterogeneity of all those tiny pieces in the Kubernetes universe, it creates a tremendous effort to put a platform together. So I think that needs mitigation. We need more technologies that will allow for that operational efficiency and also well-curated sets of tools that will help to address the data management issue.
Since we are talking about this, I also want to talk a bit about, if you can just talk about, if you look at the Anynines platform, Kubernetes, Cloud Foundry, what's going on here with the platform?
Well, it's a path. we are learning constantly. So we've tested several working hypotheses. One of which, for example, is that you look at this platform spanning across the globe, stretching across on-premise and public infrastructures. They are the hardest thing to look at. That's why it's my favorite example. So if you get those right, all the others, they will fall into place. So how do you manage, let's say, 5 different Kubernetes distros across 5 different infrastructures? So in the question, or one of the working hypotheses we had was, we'll go with technology, for example, like Cluster API or Gardener, that abstracts from the underlying infrastructure to a sufficient degree. However, our experiments, we are running those products, like for several quarters internally before we, add them to the platform, and so far none of them really crossed the chasm, right? So there are operational issues along with them, so it does not provide the necessary confidence to say, well, this is the new module and there you go. So if you do not have that Bosch replacement in the Kubernetes world, how do you manage the life cycle of different many Kubernetes clusters across different distros? That'll be the question. So other technologies become more appealing, including cross-plane. And once you figure that out, how to declare a Kubernetes cluster, because you want to describe it declaratively, like imagine a Kubernetes meta cluster where you describe your environments to get them going, because we are looking for the operational efficiencies for platform operations, not only for application developers. So once you've passed that, the next question would be, if the organization is large, what, for example, is creating, or how do you create tenants on the level of large enterprise? Because you have those different business units, they usually form a hierarchical kind of structure. So how do you make sense of that? How do you govern policies around managing application development platforms in the Kubernetes ecosystem at scale? So there are interesting projects that promise to allow you the creation of workspace or tenants, so to say, and that's what we are looking into.
We talked about anynines presence here at the event. Talk a bit about the Postgres demo and the announcement or release that you made.
In the Kubernetes section of the anynines platform, we're building data service automation natively on Kubernetes, which will be executed under the same license that we have for the anynines data services. So anybody with a license from us can also obtain our operators and use them right away. So we took our time to build the Postgres operator because it's, well, by far the most popular data service requested by our customers. And now we are happy to announce that beta version 3 of the Postgres operator, and we are actively looking for startup customers to give us feedback about it. So one of the highlights from that Postgres is we're using a different cluster manager internally. So for virtual machine-based automation, we've been using Rep Manager to this day. And in the Kubernetes-based operator, we are using Patroni by Zalando instead. They also come with their own operator, so they also provide an open source operator. But because we are going to automate like multiple data services, and we have different requirements to live up to those enterprise readiness criteria, we've decided to write our own operator. So this one is actually now in a good stage. And we had interesting opportunities using Kubernetes. So for example, one of the challenges when dealing with distributed databases is how do you test those network issues that can really become problematic. So we've invested a lot of time in building a testing framework that allows us to simulate network partitions, fluctuating bandwidth and latency. So that's a whole new level that allows you to become more predictable. So you know which are the situations the operator will handle perfectly given a particular replication strategy, asynchronous replication, for example. So there are exciting times ahead. And And now we are looking to add, more data services.
You also delivered, a session and talk at the Data on Kubernetes community. Give us an update on that community.
Yeah, the Data on Kubernetes community is basically, as the name suggests, following the idea that Kubernetes is also capable of running stateful workloads. At the DOK day, or the Data on Kubernetes day, I gave a talk about how to stretch a Kubernetes cluster across multiple Kubernetes clusters. So for example, if you have geographic regions and you'd like to have a database that spans across those regions, for example, to survive individual region failures. And it's actually, one of the takeaways was that with Cilium, the Cilium network plugin, you'd be able to achieve that fairly straightforward. It's still things you need to take care of. For example, you don't have a stateful set if you have multiple Kubernetes clusters, but you'll have services, and most of the communication or the intercluster communication is handled by Cilium transparently. So we are looking forward to see customers with the demand for intercluster Postgres instances approach us, because we are looking for startup customers helping to understand their in-depth requirements. Because in those scenarios, understanding the particular application needs is very, very essential, even more so compared to local clusters.
Julian, thank you so much for once again sitting down with me and talk about anynines presence here at KubeCon. And as usual, I look forward to talk to you soon. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me here. It's always good to talk to you, and I'm looking forward to the next time as well.